he seemed to have different monitors. He just could reach for like text that he'd always just
Good morning, everyone. Welcome along to the Golden Trail World Series Finals here in Ascona-Locarno in Switzerland, right in the south of Switzerland, the Italian-speaking part of this country. If you were with us yesterday, the weather has come in a little bit. It's foggy. It's around about 14 degrees, as you can see at the moment, but conditions a little bit trickier out on the trail. There's a bit of moisture out there, but this is going to be an absolute thriller for the World Series Finals. 4 men in really with the chance of taking the overall title. El Azoui from Morocco leads the standings at the moment. He's on 700 points with Kipgeno from Kenya, 676, 24 behind. Kiriago, he's 80 behind, and Remy Bonnet, two-time champion, last year's champion, 86 behind. He'll need a big swing if he wants to take it, but the Swiss fans here in Ascona-Locarno will be hoping he can pull something out of the bag and really take it out on the trail and challenge the Moroccans, the Kenyans. In 5th place in the Daniel Petit from Italy. He's 140 behind. My name's Ian Finley. Alongside me, David Hellard. David, this is going to be a great race. I can't wait for it.
so exciting. It's the first time this year we've had wet conditions, and we're counting down our top 10 here. This is Joey Haddle from Switzerland, a specialist orienteer. He will be delighted it is wet underfoot. But today, as you said, we've got some 4 big favourites, but actually Roberto De Lorenzi, he lives on the opposite valley to where we're running. He will be delighted that the trails are at home, and we're expecting to see attacks, battles all the way through this race. But on screen now, Daniel Pattis just come through. Remy Bonnet, the first time he's racing a final at home in Switzerland, last year's champion. He needs to do something special today. Philemon Kiriago, winner of Sierra Zanao last year, a very good downhill runner. And the early leader of our series, Patrick Kipengino, the uphill specialist. Can he stop this man? Elazine El-Azoui from Morocco, devastating in the wet, loves the technical, loves all distances it seems. Can they come up with something new to stop him? Because he's got into the final 100 meters, tied for victory, and he's won the last 3 sprints against these 2 Kenyan runners. So what have they got new on offer today?
Getting it ready for the start. A few fist pumps. It is going to be tough out there today with these conditions. These trails has absolutely everything as well.
In terms of what we've got for you, it's a 24K race with 1,500 meters of climbing. But importantly, that is spread over 6 laps. There will be ups and downs, which means repeated attacks. And it's incredibly hard for them to keep their legs fresh and to pace the race all the way to the finish. We're going to start with a 300-meter sprint, then a 1.7K loop. But we have the teaser of Chasing Dreams to give you an insight of what this racing is like.
Today it's my day. I think if you want to win the race, you have to be confident and to tell to yourself that you will win.
The finals last year, when Madeline and Judith beat me, I was like, that sucked. When I come back next year, I'm going to come back and show that I'm the best.
I hope to win again. I probably proved myself that I'm better than I think, that I'm good at tactics.
My dream this year is to win Golden Trail World Series.
It was not my day. My day's coming.
Do you think Remy is scared of you?
I think so.
I have to keep the fighting spirit until the end.
There's a chance he's going to cross this line, not knowing if she's won the overall series or not.
Basically, from now on, it's all or nothing.
The race moments away here in Ascona-Locarno on a foggy, misty day. It's not the coldest, 14 degrees, so it'll get a little bit chillier as we top out about 1,800 meters on this course. A series of trails that have got everything, long ascents, and particularly towards the very end of the race, for me, the toughest ascent that we will see, and some brutal downhills as well. It is going to test absolutely everything from these athletes. Alazoui in the driving seat, the winner of the Marathon du Mont Blanc, Headlands and Mammoth this year. Can he see it home? Just 24 points ahead of Patrick Kipingino from Kenya. These athletes, David, they've got a few minutes, haven't they? And they've just got to stay warm, stay loose, focus, calm the nerves as much as they can, because it's all about to blow up in a few minutes.
And we saw yesterday with the women's final the pace that they took it out of. But this is our top 10. Significantly, the gap between first and second means that Patrick Kipingino needs to finish 2 places ahead of Elazine Alazoui, something he hasn't done all season. But we're also going to be focusing on that battle for third, Remy Bonnet and Philemon Kariago. Whoever finishes first out of those 2 is going to take that final podium place, assuming that Patrick and Elazine finish well today. And they will be tracking each other, the battle within the main battle. But you can see the nerves on offer here. They have run already this week. There was a prologue of 7K 2 days ago. And that is our race favourite in the gold bib, Elazine Alazoui. He has never won the Golden Trail Series before. He won last year's final, but previous years he has been inhibited by not being able to travel to America. This year he's raced every race he's wanted to, and he has been sublime on the up and the down. And so today the real question is, will our top 4 athletes be able to attack him early enough to blow him up in the race? Because they know that he is too fast at the finishing sprint. It's a downhill finish today, a very technical, sharp, steep descent, and that means they need to drop him before they get to that penultimate loop, which means it's going to be an explosive race with attacks throughout our 6 loops today.
So here we go, we're getting ready for the start. Keep your eyes on the top four that we have mentioned. Elazui, Kipingino, Criago, Bonnet, they've all got things to play for and fight for. As you say, David, these attacks are going to come, I think, pretty much right from the start. There's going to be a lot of fighting for position. Get into a good spot on the trail because the climbing starts very, very quickly.
Now, significantly, if you look at this weather, we haven't had damp conditions yet. And we do know that Kipingino and Kiriago, they're not used to the wet. They don't regularly train in conditions like this, particularly on the downhill where Philemon Kiriago has shown some devastating speed. We don't know whether he'll be able to use his talent without the grip that he's used to in the dry. And so for Remy Bonnet in particular, he'll be hoping he can press home his climbing advantage, get a lead over him, and then not be able to be caught on that downhill. But here we go, 10 seconds to the final of the Golden Trail World Series.
Well, here we go. The race is on. 24 kilometers, 1,500 meters of ascending. Wet, slippy. A real challenge. Everyone is off, and this is going to be intriguing. See who takes it up early. I'm keeping my eyes on René Bonnet. I think these conditions, David, could, and a little bit of knowledge as well of the mountains in this part of the world, the trails. We know how what a quality runner and all-round athlete he is as well, with his ski mountaineering that he does. I think René Bonnet is going to try everything to get this victory on home soil to finish off this series. What will be in the overall? Well, that's up to the others in terms of Bonnet's chances. But in terms of getting on the podium, the overall podium, Bonnet has a massive chance, just being those 6 points behind Kiriago as well. Well, we might have to sit on a few higher drone shots today due to the weather. We'll just have to see how that plays out. Otherwise, then myself and David will have a nice chat throughout the race. But hopefully we'll be able to get you some footage from inside the trees and the trails as soon as possible.
And it does open up on that big third loop. We will get a better sight of the exposed ridge and be able to see the runners for sure. But wow, this is Liam from America leading out. He, I won't expect to see him in the top 20 necessarily today, finishing up. He's from the National Series. We know he's a very fast sprinter, but of our favourites, it's Philemon Kiriago there we see at the front. Last year's Sierra Zanal winner. He has said that if he has a choice between sacrificing himself and Patrick winning today's race, he will do that. He is prepared to take one for the team, for Team Run Together. So the fact he's leading out now on this second loop, it's only 1.7K. This might actually be a tactic. They are already trying to upset El Hussein. If they can change his rhythm, force him into a speed he doesn't want to be, potentially they can blow him up. And El Hussein knows he just has to stay on Patrick's shoulder to win this race. And already now you can see Liam tiring down a bit and Philemon Kiriago leading out. Significantly though, in the blue here at the back, this is Timothy Cabet. He's never run in the Golden Trail before. He's never actually raced in Europe before. He is from Millimani Runners, the same team as Joylene Chipingino, who won yesterday. And speaking to his coach, Julian, he said he is a very strong uphill runner. So the fact he's in our lead group now, when we go out on lap 2 and we have that 550-meter climb, he's the individual who potentially could be pressing the pace and causing havoc for our top 4, changing their race strategies today.
Just how much of an advantage is it when, with the likes of Kiriago and Kipingino, you were talking about tactically, they might work together a little bit here, running for the same team, and does that help? Is that a big advantage for those two riders, and how hard is it going to be for Elazui to try and mark any of those moves or tactics that the two Kenyans look to play out in this race?
It can be. We've typically seen them run together before and actually communicate. And when you're running with someone, you know it just shares the pain of the climb. But this is their tactic, I think. The fact that they've sent Philemon out early. Now, we saw in last year's final, something similar. But Elisine and Remy Bonnet are great friends. Elisine is a Moroccan runner, a Berber, but actually he's based in Switzerland for a lot of his training. And we've seen in previous races, and particularly in last year's final, they've almost shared the work around the course where Remy has done the climbing. Elisine has been content to sit behind. And then when they get to the peak, Elisine takes control, chooses the racing line, and Remy has almost sat in the groove that Elisine is creating. So we are, to a certain extent, seeing two against two here today, where Elisine and Remy know that they're not actually going to be competing for first place together. They both have their own separate battles. So it is a pair of pairs competing against each other today.
Well, that is the mountain, the trails that we're on today. In some pretty tough conditions out there on the trails.
And you can see the loops there, the climbing significantly. We saw.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome along to Ascona-Locarno. It is the Golden Trail World Series finals here in southern Switzerland. 24 kilometers of racing, around about 1,500 meters of ascent on this hill overlooking the beautiful Lago Maggiore, which we might not see today because it is pretty cloudy, pretty misty. Challenging conditions out on the trail. Wet, underfoot, and you've not missed that much of the race so far. Just 6 minutes of racing. And coming through the cheer zone here, the man in first up, taking it out early. Philemon Kiriego from Kenya sits in third in the standings right now. He is the early pace setter in this one. My name's Ian Finley, alongside me, David Hellard. And David, early stages of the race, but we're seeing some tactics play out already from the two Kenyans.
It's great to see. There's such a difference in people's abilities to run uphill, run downhill, and attack at speed some of these flatter sections of the course. Philemon Kiriego clearly using his ability over these smoother sections, but as we say, he's trying to impact Elisine Elazoi's race by going out hard today because he wants his compatriot, his teammate Patrick Capigino, to win overall. And so he's actually taking one for the team now, leading out. But significantly, you could see there were gaps between him and the chasing group. It didn't look like they've fallen for the trap. Remy Bonnet, Elisine Elazoi didn't seem to be up there in that. In fact, we can see them there. This is Remy, then Patrick, then Elisine Elazoi in the green here. All three of them together. So clearly they've decided they're happy for Philemon to run his own race for now. And they're just stalking each other because they know that this is where the true battle is for the podium today and the podium for the overall series.
Well, the first time this season on really where it's damp underfoot as well, and as we get through this race, there's some real tricky towards the end of the race. I've gone 20 kilometers into it. The ascent that we're going to deal with, that could be so much slippier than it was for the women's race yesterday. So we're looking at those runners that are good at climbing in all conditions as well. We'll find out just how it all is going to play out throughout this race. But it's such a test out there today with these conditions. It is going to test every single skill that these runners have, and boy, do they have a lot of skill. But also it's a mental battle as well, and having to deal with the tactics that some of the other athletes are going to bring to this race. And this little group here, David, seemingly just content, as you say, to let it play out up ahead.
And you can see in the green here, this is Alazoui from Morocco. This is a tactic he loves to deploy. We've seen over the past 2 seasons him really develop this strategy where he just sits behind. He never leads. And we saw 2 years ago in Dolomis when he tried to attack Stian, the world champion. We even saw this in Mammoth in the last race when he took the lead. And time and again, he's finding that if he tries to go too early and seize the race, actually, it's quite hard for him to maintain that lead. And so now he's just quite happy to sit behind and let everyone do the work. At the moment, you won't see the huge advantage that gives you, but when we come on the downhills and other sections of the course, when there are tight turns, and also when the athletes are having to decide exactly which line to take down the mountain, sitting back allows you to just take the edge off each corner, nip a little shortcut here and there, but also to see how the other athletes have flowed through the terrain and therefore pick a better route. And time and again, we've seen him in last year's final save himself a second on each corner, save himself a little bit of a turn and save a bit of energy. And so one of the frustrations for the other athletes is they know this is his tactic and they have to try and drop him. So how do you stop him deploying this tactic against you and get rid of him? And that's what they're going to have to do today, particularly on this longer climb that they're now taking part in.
Tactically, as you say, Alazoui he's got it right this season as well. A big looks like overall over the course of this season, he's just been a little bit sharper than he was last year. He's had the wins in the Marathon du Mont Blanc, Headlands, and in Mammoth, which is why he leads the men's standings. But also, when you're operating with that kind of tactic, just sitting in second, letting someone else in front almost pick line, it just takes a little bit of the mental pressure off as well, and that can be key coming in to the final few kilometers of the race with that descent, that you may be just a little bit sharper as well. You've not had to really focus on every single decision because you've got people around you as well, and the mental sharpness is absolutely vital coming in to the latter stages of this race, because it is so grueling. Best sprinter, Kiriago, after 2 kilometers. No surprises there. He's taken the race up and leading early on. The man that is in third in the standing. Second to Sierra Zinal, second to Headlands, third in Mammoth. A really decent season, but he's working for Kipingino to try and see if he can get Kipingino to the top step of the overall for 2024.
And
Kiriago
really
out in front, David.
Yeah, and there really is some mental fatigue, as you say. It's been a really long season. We started in Asia in April, and actually that's when Patrick Kipingino, he won back-to-back victories. But we've seen last season, none of the winners of the final were the series champions, because it's so hard to stay in peak condition throughout the season. And significantly for me, Elisine hasn't been racing quite as much as the other athletes, and Patrick Kipingino, he's come into these finals looking tired, and in the final climb of the in the big climbs of the prologue, he was significantly down on Remy Bonnet, who was attacking masterfully the some of the hills that we have today. That wasn't happening earlier on this season, and so they're coming in today not in as fresh as they'd want, partly because of the prologue, but partly just because they've had the build-up of that fatigue through the season. And so being able to just sit back a bit and not have to think too much does actually impact on how you feel throughout this race. And that's going to be essential in the managing the race today. But here we go. This is our top 10. And as you can see, our 3 favourites, Patrick Kipingino, Remy Bonnet, now has seen not in even the top 5, because they're just tracking each other. In terms of our top 5 at the moment, Christian Allen, a very fast road runner. He's got a 28 10K. Another American Liam, surprising to be up there as well. But being led at the moment by our 3 Kenyan runners, who I suspect have gone out too quickly based on previous form. So while that was our top 10 currently, I think I'd be surprised if anyone in our top 5 now actually makes it to the end of the race in our top 3.
When you're talking about Elazui, he obviously started okay in Kobe and then second place at Four Sisters, but didn't do Sierra Zinala Tatra Sky Marathon, and that little break has clearly set him up well for the US leg, where he picked up both victories in Headlands and Mammoth as well, and it looks like that it just gave him that little bit of freshness to come through and try and finish this season strongly.
Yeah, and the way he won those 2 races, it reinforces how important being fresh is. Both of those were sprints where he beat Patrick Kimagino in Mammoth by less than a second. He beat Philemon Cariago by less than a second in Headlands. And so it came down to just having a little bit more sprint in the legs. And so they both know that that's his tactic and that they need to get that sprint finish out of him today. But we can see there is a little bit of a gap now starting to form between our front 3. You know, Philemon Cariago doing fantastically well here, but this is where we're going to see the power of our climbers. Without doubt, the best climbers in the world, Remy Bonnet, Patrick Kimagino. The world champion over the vertical kilometer is Patrick. In terms of the highest ever trail running score for climbing, that's Remy Bonnet. And so these 2 now, I suspect we will see start to cruise past these Philemon. Whether whether Timothy Quebec then sticks with them will be a question, but I wouldn't be surprised as it gets a bit more technical and the steepness increases if our 3 favourites soon pass and actually set themselves up for what's going to be a very, very long climb.
Well, we're seeing Kevin Kibet here as well, 4th in the prologue. Was maybe a bit of a surprise that he finished so high up in the prologue, but he's showing that some pretty decent skill on these trails. No relation to Timothy Kibet, who's in this group as well. But Kevin Kibet, relative surprise in the prologue, finishing in 4th place. But this is a totally different test, isn't it?
Yeah, and this we quite often see with some of the Kenyan athletes coming out where we know they have speed. Kevin unusually backs himself for his downhill, and we first saw him race this season in Zagama, the marathon. It was wet conditions there. He started out incredibly well and actually was almost defeated by the course. But in the prologue, in the downhill, he was incredibly fast. 4th in the climb, but 2nd overall in that downhill, only beaten by Elisina Lazoui. So given this shorter distance, 24K, Kevin actually is someone who, of these 3, could have a performance the other athletes aren't necessarily expecting. One of the challenges will be, though, while it is only 24K, 2 hours, we know that Philemon's had issues with his nutrition. He hasn't always finished strongly, and we can see Patrick Kimagino here, bottle in hand, the first athlete of those 4 who's actually taking nutrition on the course. And while it's a relatively short race for some Golden Trail races, that could be a factor today as well.
Well, every athlete with slightly different nutrition strategies as well. We've had morning to everyone on Eurosport that has joined us. Thank you so much for tuning in. And David, there's a whole variety of different nutrition strategies out there, and even with with the three Kenyans that we're seeing at the moment, a big variety of strategies as well. You said Patrick Kipinjago's already got the bottle. What sort of different strategies might we see out on the trails?
Certainly a mix of gels and drinks. They do go through our cheer zone 7 times. We saw that at the start. You can hear the energy, and that's when they'll be able to hand off their bottles and get new ones. It's also where they'll be able to pick up some tactics. And actually, Philemon Cariaga there, you can see he's got a bottle in hand. But we saw yesterday just how brutal this latter end of the course is. The final 600-meter climb is so unforgivingly steep, and Joyce Njuru, the series winner, who came 3rd yesterday, she absolutely blew up in that final climb, and I believe that was partly due to the pace that Joylene had taken it out at, but was also because of nutrition. And if you're not fueling well now in these opportunities that you get to, it really will hurt you at the end of the race. And this is when you want to be fueling on the ups. We saw Judith Weider, an incredible downhill descender, absolutely fall flat on her face yesterday on the down when she was reaching for a bottle. It's quite a fiddly course running down this terrain, and you need to keep your concentration up. So you use these opportunities where you're not moving as quickly to take on your fuel. And that's what will be essential now to ensure that they get into the end of the race. But we can see now our top 6 closing together. But it seems Patrick and Remy happy to sit back. I thought Remy might be using this climb, the longest one of the day, actually to attack a bit more, but maybe they're deciding it's going to be our final big climb where the damage will be done.
Do you think, having watched the women's race yesterday, maybe there was some, actually, let's just keep it together, and that might be the point to attack? Do you think the women's race may have played into some of the tactics today? After most of these men, if they didn't watch it live, they certainly would have been, I'm sure, just getting a look at it. But I was with you. I was expecting Remy Bonnet to maybe just take it up on this, but we're not seeing that. But hey, he'll have his plan. He'll have his tactics.
And one of the surprises yesterday, and here come the Bath flags.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's Sarah Alonso on the course there, I think. Fantastic race yesterday, cheering them on. What really surprised me yesterday, and which could be a factor today as well, on that steeper climb, it was very obvious to us as viewers that our athletes should be power hiking the top of the climbs. And we saw with Joylene, we saw with Joyce and Giroux, they were both so focused on running that actually they missed the opportunity to rest slightly, to change their muscle groups, but actually it was significantly slower. And this is where athletes like Remy Bonnet, who are a bit more tactical, will have practiced their power hiking, their power walking. And that means that final climb, not only are they powerful climbers, but they will know the tactics to actually manage that significant climb. But let's see if they can attack now. The final climb, the real joy of today.
Well, there we can see where Philomena Kiriego is right now on the course. We've got this group at the front of the race, the Kenyans working well and building up and up this long climb. And I think they'll be pretty pleased to get away from the leaves, because as anyone that's ever been out in a trail, never mind running, even walking, those leaves, when they're wet, not only are they slippy, but they can hide some danger underfoot as well. So just getting away from the climbing out of the forest will probably be a bit of a relief to these men.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's quite nice to change scenery sometimes, just to feel like you're progressing. In terms of this course, Remy knows it very well. He has been here several times before. A couple of the loops are the same as the Prologue, so they'll be able to check off what they're seeing. But one of the changes that has happened, this long loop was initially going to be at the end of the race, but we've changed it round just to try and ensure that we can bring you the full course with some good camera work. But it does mean that this is the section of the course that Philemon, that Patrick, Kip and Jade, they don't know as well. And so they will be running a little bit blind, which means they won't be able to mount an attack quite as confidently. But also they don't know what this downhill is going to show them. And we saw yesterday there were some significant changes in our leading group on the downhill. Joyce and Giroux, she caught Joylene. It took 1 minute and 15 out within only 5 to 10 minutes of downhill running. And so having an awareness of what it's going to be like underfoot prepares you for what kind of attack you're going to put down. The downhill could be where we're going to see more gaps form, because it seems at the moment that no one wants to actually make a move. No one wants to put pressure on quite yet. They seem quite content. But it still looks like it's tricky underfoot. We saw there Kevin Cabet like slipping a little bit, looking back. It's not easy running by any means.
No, not at all. And we've had a few little slips as well that we've just seen on camera. Big shout out to everyone out out on the course, providing these beautiful, wonderful pictures. Out running, out on the bikes as well. It's absolutely fantastic pictures that are being brought to us, and a testament to the crew out that are battling the elements and the physicality needed to go out and bring these pictures as well. It is not an easy thing for these camera crew to do.
This
26 minutes into the race, and the Kenyans are out in front, but it's all pretty cagey so far. We've not had any time checks yet. As we get them, I'll just do a quick refresh of my timing screen just to make sure, but we'll bring you up to date with time checks as and when we get them throughout the race.
And we're sat now behind Christian Allen, and I think that's Robert Kimoy. And Christian is currently sat down in the overall standings outside of our top 10. He's had a great prologue, and he joined our series quite late, coming to the 2 American races. And so for him, he came 6th overall in the time trial prologue, and he's hoping today, if he can give a really good performance, because there's 300 points on offer in today's final versus 200 in a normal race, potentially a good performance could see him catapult into the top 6 or so. So could really significantly change his season next year, and the contracts he can negotiate with sponsors if he does well here today.
Christian Allen's a really interesting racer, isn't he? He's only done 3 races before today with Sierra Zinal, Headlands and Mammoth, and then really good run in the prologue as well. 6th place, showing that he is maybe someone that could start to build a challenge next season if we see him a little bit more on the Golden Trail World Series. But it's been so far an impressive weekend from Christian Allen.
Yeah, and it's quite a long race for him. He's got a 13:34 5K time, a 28:26 10K time, and so he's only really relatively recently moved to trail, having got into it at university in Utah. Now, they're approaching the first peak. It's the highest point in our race at 1,848 meters. They're out on lap 3, and one of the challenges of this lapped course is that they're constantly going up and down and up and down. And the brutalizing that the downhill does on your quads, having to repeatedly then climb again and try and push the pace on the downhill again is really tough for athletes. With the prologue 2 days before, it means they're also coming in with tired legs. And so technique on the downhill is also is equally as important as speed, because if you're able to flow through these downhills without taking too much impact on your quads, it does mean you can save your legs for that final descent. And the ferocity of that finishing downhill is so steep that we saw yesterday Lauren Gregory from America just eat up yards on Joyce and Giroux and take second overall. And so as they come over this highest peak in the race, they need to be very conscious of not losing too much time, but also preserving their legs as well. Because while it's only a 24K race, the up and down nature of it will make it feel like they're running closer to a marathon in effort.
Well, out of the trees now, and it all starts to open up slightly different terrain here at this part as we're building towards the highest points of the course here. We're in southern Switzerland, Lago Maggiore, not too far away. Beautiful mountains around in this part of the world. The Basadino Mountain and the best in the world are tackling it right now. Roberto De Lorenzi there, the Swiss athlete, came into this in seventh, sixth in the standings now after the prologue. So pretty decent season. Third at the Marathon du Mont Blanc for De Lorenzi. Really strong athlete, and clearly relishing home soil, and looking pretty good, flowing pretty nicely, but still very early stages, just 30 minutes into this race.
And he'll be delighted to be where he is right now. I suspect this front group will have some casualties later on in the race. And actually, Roberto De Lorenzi is the athlete who, in my head, I've got as being the most likely to kind of mop up those places. He's sat in sixth, but he's only 6 points down on his teammates, Daniel Pattis. They're great friends, both Roberto, Swiss, Italian, Daniel Pattis, Italian himself. And so they are both battling for fifth place overall. Whoever finishes first out of those two will take fifth. And you almost have in trail running, you have a podium of top three, but top five is seen as almost an extended podium. But he will love these conditions. He's the European champion, and he won that race shorter distance, but very wet and muddy conditions. And so he will be delighted with the that it's getting slippier and slippier underfoot, not only because he knows the course, but because it certainly suits his skill set. And so I don't think we'll see him challenging this lead group until quite late on in the race. But it wouldn't surprise me if on that final big climb, he starts coming up through into the kind of third and fourth place positions.
Well, I've not got any time checks at the moment. I thought we would have had one by now. Just frantically refreshing everything I can at my end to see if we've got anything. We're going to have a little interview coming up in a few moments with the tour leader, the championship overall leader, Elassine Alazoui, who's just going about his business pretty sensibly so far today, and that's what we expected from Alazoui. He knows it's in his hands, just has to ensure he stays alongside Kipingino and avoid any troubles. It's been such a fantastic season for Alazoui, and he's got this. It's in his own hands. He is the man that can control the overall. And, well, let's hear from him now, see what he's got to say about his chances for the overall.
For me, reality is big advantage because I training sometime here and I now good with heart. I am happy for this parcours. For me, reality I don't have, for example, any tank strategy. I just I forgas in the finish and start. For me, it's a big dream for me and for my family and for my country and for the friend, for fun, for my team. This is a big story. First African little golden trail world series because it's always for me is freedom this race.
David, how big will it be if he wins it?
I mean, he won last year's final. He's glimpsed for years at having the ability to win races, but actually for 4 or 5 years in the Golden Trail, he was often blowing up in races, finishing second. But we've never had an African winner of the Golden Trail series. We had our first female African winner yesterday, and it could be signaling a changing of the guard of where the world trail talent lies. Should he win this overall series today? Now, could you see the backgrounds? We saw a little bit of a glimpse into Roberto De Lorenzi, arms in the air, and while these downhills they're not too steep quite yet, you can see there are quite a lot of rocks around, and this mist and water, while it is making frustrating viewing, actually is. And look at the gaps there already. We can see there's significant gaps in our front runners. We should be able to find out some splits at the bottom, what's happening, but maybe not the gaps. It looks like we do have our six runners on the right there together.
And look at that, Remy Bonnet up into fifth place. So this leading group, 6 athletes, all separated by just 4 seconds at that time check that we could see. I think it's a little different out on the trail. Jonas Saldini going very well for Switzerland as well. Christian Allen, who we seen as well, Roberto De Lorenzi sitting in 10th. And so it's all after that first climb, at least a little bit closer. There is the man in the driving seat with the championship, Elazui.
And this is Saldini on his shoulder. He's quite surprised this season as well. He first raced Golden Trail in America in Mammoth, and similarly on the climbs at the start of the race was incredibly high up the rankings. So great to see that he's backing that up today, and he's another athlete who's come here with very, very good track and road speed in his legs. But a surprise here that there are some gaps in the field now, and clearly, again, Elisine not wanting to use his considerable skill on the downhill quite yet. He's playing a tactical game, happy to sit behind Kipangino and just mark his main rival.
Well, it's all about the tactics, isn't it? It's the race win, yes, would be lovely, but he wants the championship. We heard from him in the interview, and it's all about doing what he needs to do to be on the top step of the overall podium come at the end of this race. And so far, Elazuri doing what he needs to do to bring that championship title home.
Now, we did see last time these switchbacks were where some of our athletes took the opportunity to really attack this downhill. And at one point, remember yesterday, we could see there was an individual in black who we couldn't figure out who it was. Turns out it was Gael Morales from Mexico, was storming down these trails. And you get a sense of the speed here, the freed flow that the downhill allows our runners to have. So we currently have on screen, this is Jonas Saldini from Switzerland. He knows these trails well. Elisina Lazoui just in front of him, and Patrick Kipangino are top two in the series, running together at the moment. To me, it looks like it's Philemon Curiago in the yellow and the white of Team Run Together, in confirmation there, in fact. So it seems as if Timothy Cabet, the newer runner in the light blue, who we knew was a good climber, has not been able to stick with our front pack on this downhill. But already on offer, we can see Philemon Curiago clearly running well in the downhill, pulling away from our front group. The question now is, will he actually be trying to... Is he doing this with Patrick in mind, or is he now thinking of his own race against Remy, knowing he needs to finish ahead of Remy to get third overall in the series? Because clearly his tactic of changing the speed, of going out hard, hasn't had an impact on El Hussein. And so whether Philemon has the awareness to actually decide, I'm of no use to my teammates, I now need to think of myself, or whether he's still here on offer as a weapon to be deployed for Team Run Together.
Well, it's all very, very intriguing as well on the descent, as one of the camera runners just decides to try and take the shortcut, which is pretty good. I like it. That's creative filmmaking. It's a huge thing, and it worked, didn't it? I like that approach, and keeps up with these runners. Can you imagine trying to do this holding a camera with or camera strapped to them, I imagine. So it's just not easy, is it? And you could see the pace that these men are flying down the mountain in pretty tough conditions as well. And it won't be too long till we're back into that next layer of mist and back into the trees, where we saw yesterday Injiru having a little problem with the ankle. And yeah, this is all about being alert, being aware of everything happening around you, the tactics, the conditions, as well as managing your own resources through this race. But the championship talent challengers are all where they need to be at the moment.
And I believe we're tucked behind Joey Hadorn at the moment, the Swiss orienteer, who is sat in around the latter, the early teens, maybe the back of our top 10. Great to see him actually on this course. He did have quite an issue with his ankle in the prologue, and there were some concerns about whether he'd be racing today. But if you're just joining us, our cameramen are struggling to keep up with the pace of the front of our race, which I do have some sympathy for them. They have already run the women's race yesterday, but we actually deploy some of the best orienteering runners from Europe are here filming. But the speed of the men's race on offer today is it's just very hard to keep up with. But this is a great opportunity for you to really see some of the skill that our athletes have. Joey Hadorn is one of the fastest sprint orienteers on earth. And as you can see, when he comes to the corners, he just manages to shave a little bit of the turn off by choosing the right line to get around that corner. But we will be bringing you highlights of our prologue shortly. The prologue was worth 100 points. Today's race is 300 points. Significantly, it didn't change too much, our top 3 results. But you get an insight into what the skill levels of our runners are here today, and therefore what we can expect later on this course.
For the third consecutive year, the Golden Trail World Series is preceded by a prologue. And on Friday, the men's prologue race took place where the athletes competed for a maximum of 100 points towards the overall standings. It was a 7-kilometer course in a flower format, 400 meters of elevation gain, and the rain made the track extremely slippery and technical, resulting in some spectacular scenes.
Look at the footwork going on here, just dancing around. This is what we talked about, the technical section. If this looks hard now, wow, Ascent, the flying camel in full display. Imagine that wet when you're tired and you already have this race and today's race in your legs. It's going to be absolutely brutal. That is 2 kilometers from our finish line today, and they will be starting to think about how painful that will be.
Well, Elisine Elazouhi had a fantastic race, capitalised on a small lead from Kibingino. It was only 24 points ahead. He won his last 2 races in California, of course, as we've been saying, putting him in a strong position for the overall win, though the Kenyan duo were close behind. After 5 years of trying to win the overall title, the Moroccan is now closer than ever to victory.
He's just such a gorgeous runner to watch, the way he flows when he's in his prime. Now, the prologue really gave us a snapshot a little bit into the tactics. This is Remy Bonnet's prologue, and Remy, last year's series champion, came into this without a single win to his name in the season so far, and a little bit was unsure how he could impact on this series, but in the prologue he took it out harder than everyone, and on this climb you can see he's really bearing himself, and by the peak of the first climb he had a 20-second lead over everyone. Incredible, given it was only 3 kilometers into the race. And so for me, the prologue with Remy was almost a test run of today's race, and the tactics to see if by attacking early, whether that would actually put him in a good enough position to change the overall rankings. And he came second overall in the prologue because of that strategy.
Finished 25 seconds behind Elisine in the end. Patrick Kibingino looking to maintain his second place in the overall standings. 5 podiums this season. He's right behind Elisine Elazouhi, and coming through in 3rd place in the prologue, 26.39 his time. Ended up, David, 50 seconds behind Elisine at the end.
Yeah, and 50 seconds on a course like this is a big amount of time. And I mean, Patrick doesn't look too bad there, but significantly on the downhill overall, you talk about those 50 seconds, he was 44 seconds slower than Elisine Elazouhi on the downhill. And so the entire rest of the course, they were neck and neck, but actually the damage was done on the downhill. And so that is his fear today. They've got the same finish in today's course. And so he knows he has to somehow make up that difference before they get to that point in the race.
Kevin Kibet, we talked about him, a bit of a surprise performer in the prologue with some unexpected skills on display. Really great run from him.
Really exciting to see, and look at him go here. He's not taking the brakes off at all. And he said to me before the Gamma, I am a downhill runner. I could sense the glee in his voice about the being able to demonstrate at Golden Trail how good he was on down. In the Gamma, it was incredibly wet, and by the time he got to the down, he was too tired, and so actually had a shocker. So it's wonderful to see such talent on offer today, and he's gone out hard in the first half. So I'm just hoping that he can show that same skill downhill in the race today.
Well, Roberto De Lorenzi finished 5th in the prologue with a time of 27.34. Ends up coming into today's final in 6th in the overall standings. Consistent this season, but maybe cautious. Just the one top 3 finish that came at the Marathon du Mont Blanc.
Look at those fast, I mean, incredibly fast down. And, you know, he's a former Sky Running World Champion. He's currently leading their series, I believe. So we know he's incredibly technically gifted. Also a very fast 10K runner as well. And, but he knows these trails better than anyone. He lives less than 10 miles from this course. So he would have been out there in advance to see how hard it is. And if you think he's good today, if you think he was good in the prologue, wait until you see him on the wet course.
So here's the results of the prologue. As we've been saying, El Azoui taking it, Bonnet in 2nd, Kipingeno 3rd, Kevin Kibet 4th, De Lorenzi 5th, Christian Allen in 6th place for the USA. We saw him a little bit earlier. We've got pictures back at the front of the race, David, and 3 runners just have that little advantage.
It looks like our 3 have reformed, doesn't it? That's Philemon Carriego at the front. Just at the back there in the blue, that is Timothy Cabet, I believe, from Millimani Runners. New to the Golden Trail today. And potentially, that is Kevin Cabet, also from Millimani Runners, in the middle. So our top 3, who I thought by this stage, actually, they may have been caught. 2 of those, so one of them, Timothy Cabet, certainly not known for being a good downhill runner, but it seems that our top 3 in the overall standings are quite happy to let the 3 get away from them and are just guarding each other. But the thing that really I'm questioning now, though, is that Remy Bonnet quite happy to sit with Elusine Alazoui and Patrick Kipingeno, even though he's in a battle for 3rd with Philemon, who's now leading the race. So Remy has clearly decided that this lead that they have is not going to play a significant part. But did you see there behind? Remy is by himself now.
They're not far.
Remy has decided Philemon can't get ahead.
Or David, they are a lot closer than perhaps we had just initially thought there. So it's going to be very, very interesting, isn't it? And they're not far behind this group of 3.
And the race tactics are clearly coming into full view now. Remy Bonnet has decided, it seems, to pick the pace up. He doesn't want to lose this front pack, but we could see behind in that little shuffle turnaround, Elusine Alazoui and Patrick Kipingeno, our 2 series leaders, still locked together. But the fact that they have now been caught by Robert Kimoy and it shows that maybe they slowed down a bit. So there's now 8 runners all together locked in battle.
This section of the trail, you said it yesterday, there's a few little, almost like very gentle rises, and it's important to get the pacing right on this sort of section, isn't it? It's not super steep, but we know what's to come towards the end of the race with a 600-meter climb. But through this section, it's one of the easier sections in terms of terrain as well, isn't it? It's, if ever there's a chance of a respite, it's maybe here. But again, it gets pretty tricky. It's damp in the trees. There's a lot of leaves around with late October. It won't be long until the snow starts to fall. Yeah, he's off. Yeah.
Look at the gap he's creating here. And maybe we've got the tactics completely wrong here. If we think back to that prologue, we didn't show Philippe at all in the footage, and that's because he wasn't in the top 5. Has he been saving the whole time, focusing just on the final, knowing that it's 300 points on offer today? He came ninth in the prologue. He was over 2 minutes 15 back on El Hussein. Was that him? Has he been planning this attack the whole time and allowing them to think that he is only here to try and upset the battle between Patrick? Is he going for the win himself? Has he made his move to try and reach the winning lead? Incredible to see.
Incredible indeed. And, well, finishing 9th in the prologue, and we know he's a better runner than that in terms of his pace. So we'll have to see. Is this the move, as you say, David? Has he just been saving himself? And these extra points that are on offer as well, with this being the finals, can have a huge impact, because Kiriago is 80 points behind. This is the standings after 51 minutes of racing. And he would be, Kiriago would be on course for the 300 points if it stays like this. But there's a lot of racing to go. Remy Bonnet in 4th place at the moment. I think watch out for De Lorenzi down in 10th place as well as this race progresses. But the Swiss athletes going well so far. 3 of them in the top 10 on home soil. They know these trails. They know these conditions. And that could be a big advantage as we work our way through the remaining part of this race.
Now, if it stays exactly like this at the finish line, Elisina Laziou will still win with 925 points. But Philemon Kiriago will be 2nd overall in the standings, jumping ahead of Patrick Kipangino, Remy Bonnet in 4th. So, but now they've regrouped, you can see that change of pace. Has he slowed down? Have they decided they needed to try and stick with him? But we saw the flailing arms there of Timothy Cabet. It was exactly in this stage yesterday that Joyce Njiru turned her ankle. And that's Martin going through, the race director of the Tatra Sky Race on screen there. Wonderful chap. But it was exactly at this point that we saw Joyce Njiru close in on Joylene, eat up 75-second lead, but then turn her ankle, and that changed the entire race. From that moment on, she couldn't attack quite as aggressively on the downhill. So these runners have to be super careful today to ensure that they don't lose their focus on this tricky terrain.
Just a little climb as well. Kiriago, Kevin Kibet, Timothy Kibet still there as well. A surprise perhaps, but an impressive run so far from Timothy Kibet from Millimani Runners. And well, there's still a lot of racing to go here in Ascona-Locarno, the Golden Trail World Series Finals. And it's all starting to hot up. What do you do if you're the man in 4th in the standings, Remy Bonnet here? Are you building towards a big attack on that final 600-meter climb?
He's got to be. He's got to be, right?
Has to be, doesn't it?
Surely. We were wondering whether Remy was going to mount an attack on that big 550-meter climb. Now, actually, it's a 600-meter climb still to come, and it's brutally steep as well. The fact that he hasn't made a move yet, I suspect that's the moment. But it's been an intriguing race so far. You know, Philemon Kiriago leading out at the front, clearly feeling good. And so it might be that we don't actually see Elisine and Patrick challenging for the win today. Potentially, with how close Philemon and Remy are together, Remy having to try and keep up with Philemon, he could be mounting an attack on that hill from ahead of Patrick and Elisine. And so it could be that the two series leaders don't even feature in our top two today. If Philemon keeps on aggressively leading out and Remy then has to respond. But we're currently in the long third lap. It's 13 kilometers. This is the 680-meter downhill before they then go out on another lap of 4.2k, a faster loop. So we're currently seeing the longest downhill. This is the end, really, of the big advantage for Philemon Kiriego. So the fact he's not made a significant gap yet could be telling towards the end, but with a race like this, you just don't know how much damage having to keep up at that speed is having on the legs of our athletes.
I think we'll find out on the final climb just how much damage potentially has been done. But I think tactically from Alazui, from Kipingeno, they're doing the right thing. It's the overall that really matters. And if Alazui went out and tried to win the race, he might still, who knows, he might be feeling great and he's got his tactical plan in place. But it's about the overall, and if you get drawn into that battle too early in the race, then that overall suddenly could be at risk. And I think tactically, from what we can see so far, everything is working out okay for Alazui.
And we saw yesterday that Madalena Faria, she was second overall in the series. She's had a really tough season, but she took it out too hard and she ended up in 7th overall, not even finishing in the top 30. She completely blew up, joisted her ankle, and at one point was looking like she was going to sink, ended up in 3rd place, having led. So it is essential that they don't take too many risks here to protect their overall series.
Over halfway into this race here at Ascona-Locarno in southern Switzerland, the Golden Trail Series World Finals on a pretty misty, slippery day out on the trails. And just having one or two little issues with the pictures in the trees. Do apologise for that, but it is pretty tricky with these conditions to get you pictures. Hopefully a little bit later on in the race we will be able to bring you some more as things open up, some fixed cameras in position helping us bring some shots of the runners. So yeah, finally getting some time checks coming through, David, but they're all a little bit late.
Yeah, and we've got Robert Kimoy here. He's in our front group of 8 runners. So that's just the tail end of our front pack. And we're wondering about the impact of this race has. We're going to see Joylene, our winner of yesterday's race, and then we'll talk through quite how much change this race has had on her life.
On Saturday at 11:35, the season's best 30 female runners launched their attacks at the final. But for the very first few meters of the race, Kenya's Joylene Chipingeno powered away from the start. She's not one of the season's finalists. She didn't race enough in the Golden Trail Series this year to have enough points, but a big surprise package. She's been this season winning in Sierra Zinal when she was almost unknown to us all, and returned to racing in 2022, and a lot of effort in to get into racing shape as well. In the first climbing section with the head of the race with her fellow countrywoman Joyce Njiru, the leader of the overall standings. Chipingeno quickly made a gap with Njiru, dropping back just a little bit into the well, there is Joyce Njiru at this stage. She was still, we think, feeling okay. In the first downhill part, it all came back together. Njiru was with Chipingeno, but she twisted her ankle just about here, wasn't it? And there it was, big moment in the race, put her at a big disadvantage, and it allowed Cipingeino to open up a new gap. Chasing them was a group with Lauren Gregory, Madalena Florera, and Sophia Laukley, the winner of the Golden Trail Series last year. Gap at the front was pretty big, but it was Lauren Gregory. It was now on a solo attack. And at this stage, she was in third place, and eventually she was able to catch up a little bit more time on Injiru, who was starting to really suffer on this section here. Injiru, though, did manage to catch up with Cipingeino, but once we got back onto the climbs, Cipingeino was away, and Lauren Gregory, so impressive in the race. Joyce Injiru was looking like she was in a bit of bother. She had to really battle hard throughout the race, but Cipingeino was clear at this stage, and Lauren Gregory looking fresh, almost running with a smile on her face as well, which was absolutely fantastic to see. There was still some serious climbing to come, and Cipingeino tried to run this huge 600-meter super steep climbing section. Injiru was struggling, trying to power walk up as much as she could. It tells you how steep it is. It's going to be key in the men's race as well. And all the while, Lauren Gregory was closing in onto the downhill section for Cipingeino and for Injiru as well. Cipingeino looking good. She did keep looking over her shoulders, but it was Lauren Gregory that really attacked. She did have a little slip here that could have been more nasty, but thankfully she was able to bounce back up, and here was where she passed Joyce Injiru, but it was Joylene Cipingeino that was able to come through and claim her second big victory of the season, and she rightly celebrated it as well. 4 minutes 20 ahead of Lauren Gregory, but what a race we had yesterday. So many storylines in the women's race, and it was all eyes on Joyce Injiru as she was looking to come through and cement the overall, which she was able to do in the end.
And this is Kevin Quebec coming through now. We saw Philemon Kirege leading our group of, it seems, 6 runners through the aid station. Robert Kimoy back in 8th, coming through as well. So all very close, and Jonas Saldini there, the Swiss runner who is new to our series in the last race. So very, very close. Our top 6 runners all still close together. Potentially, though, that looked like Kevin Quebec might have been spat out at the back of the pack slightly. But we saw Joylene win the race yesterday, and I was speaking to her coach, and Christian Allen coming through, the American runner from Utah, incredibly fast road and track athlete. And amazingly has 3 children already, despite his young years. And his wife, in fact, a very fast runner herself. But great performance from him in this inside the top 10 as well. This should see him catapult up the overall rankings. Currently sat outside of in 12th of our top 10. Now, we talked about Joylene winning yesterday, and her coach said to me that afterwards she was laughing that she used to be digging holes as a farmer for €1 a day, and yesterday she won like over 1,000 hours work in one go, and the impact this race has on some of our athletes is incredible. We know that Elisine in Morocco, his family have suffered some great floods. It has been something on his mind the last few weeks, and our leader at the moment, Philemon Kiriego, the winnings from this season so far have allowed him to open up a restaurant in Kenya and a shop. So these athletes are running for more than just trophies today. It really is the ability to transform their lives back home.
We talked about it a little bit yesterday, David. We're seeing the Kenyans now starting to be more and more prominent, and obviously with Elazouhi from Morocco as well. But Do you think we're going to see it's great word, so the impact that it's winning and doing well in this series can have, aside from being an athlete, it's just in terms of your life and supporting your family. But do you think this is going to translate into other parts of Africa, maybe, and within Kenya, Morocco as well? Because we know the talent is there, and it's so stacked and hard to be successful on the road. But maybe there's going to be a few athletes looking at this series going, do you know what? I fancy this. And it could change the dynamic, the makeup of the series, which I think is a fantastic thing, and taking it even more global. Maybe we'll even get a race in Africa one day. That would be absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've seen for years races like Sierras are now, which is in our series. We've seen a lot of Kenyan athletes. That is almost the first race that people try. But does it look like, has Remy pulled away at the front of this? It looks as if Remy has created a clear gap between Elisine on screen now and Patrick Kipangino. So there is a chance that this group is starting to break up, and there are gaps in this race. The battle is on.
Well, Remy Bonnet, if he has got that gap, then this is all starting to shape up. Maybe the tactics was to get into that position and to then be well placed to launch that attack on the big climb that is still to come. But very, very interesting. We see the pace that they're descending with here. Great fluid running, but you have to have your eyes open through this section. It is so tricky. There's rocks everywhere. There's tree roots everywhere. It is tough out there.
And if this is correct, head of the race, well, I just want to have that confirmed first, because there's a chance that Philemon Carriego is ahead of this and our camera person isn't able to keep up. But who has thought that Remy was going to be attacking on the technical down? What a masterpiece of strategy. We know about the big climb, and actually, maybe this is his strategy. The big climb is the end of this downhill. We have a long 600-meter drag, and so maybe he is time trialing, using his knowledge and this slightly harder terrain to mount his attack, knowing that he has that long climb to also bury himself to get enough of a gap to see him through to the finish. So if he has done that, what an absolute genius move to have made. And clearly they've not responded, whether they're just happy to go or if they just can't take this pace, because Elisine will be happy to sit behind Patrick, and Patrick hasn't got the technical skill to run this, but we can see there, that's the two runners have run together. That is Philemon and Patrick together, so we can confirm Remy has made a decisive move, and at the moment it looks like only Timothy Cabet, the new runner today on the Golden Trail for the first time, is the only person who has responded to the attack.
Well, unbelievable stuff. And this is probably part of that local, general area knowledge, isn't it? He knows what these trails can be like, and as you say, maybe not quite known for attacking on the descents, but you see the pace he's going at. But this is clearly part of the plan. Build some sort of advantage on the descent. He's maybe surprised a few people as well, and he's got even more to play with when we get to the ascent as well. So difficult for the camera runners to keep up, but what a display these men are putting on so far. And Remy Bonnet has blown this race open with this move on the descent.
And if I mean, this is almost the full circle of the birth of the complete athlete in Remy Bonnet. We saw him win Zagama back in 2018 as a very, very young runner, a supremely confident climber. And those first few years, he really struggled with injury and was focusing very much on being the best climber in the world. And it wasn't until 2 years ago that he realized his climbing skills were never going to win him races. And so he's really done a lot of work in the last 2 seasons to work on his flat speed, but also his downhill. But until today, while he vastly improved his downhill ability in races 2 seasons ago when he won the series for the first time. He's never pulled it together in the wet for me. So actually today, he's showing now that because Elisine and Patrick have been so fast on these courses, he's realized he's got to get his advantages elsewhere. And he's really giving a masterclass in all-round trail running right now. Incredible to see.
Yeah, absolute masterclass, and obviously we all know about his climbing ability, that record on Pikes Peak 2023, but it's an all-round test. It's no good just being fast on the uphill. You've got to run downhill fast as well, which I actually find even harder. I'm terrible going downhill. Still have to walk on the uphills as well, so it's more of just a walk for me than anything else. But unless I've got my dog who loves the trails. But this is impressive, isn't it? It's so good to see, and it means it's all shaping up for the final part of the race as well, because Remy Bonnet has put himself out there, but he's not got a huge advantage, has he?
He's not got a huge advantage, and just listen to the breathing of our camera person. poor cameraman, who was probably thinking this bit they could jog or just run quickly. They didn't expect the attack. But the fact that Remy has a 10-second lead isn't significant yet. But he is the best climber right now. So can he extend this lead and bury his opposition on the hill?
Who'd be a camera person on a day like today? Oh, they're earning their free lunch, that's for sure. Well, going back to the drone pictures, the fog is just lifting a little bit, David. It's getting a fraction warmer, maybe not for you in the commentary position, but it is easing slightly, which certainly helps, and hopefully help us bring a few more pictures throughout the race as well. But you can see the road's still very, very wet.
Yeah, and this is where Philemon Carriego can deploy his pace now. They'll be doing everything they can to run back. And a final look into the eyes of Patrick Kipangino, second in our overall series, in a familiar position with Elisine Alazoui on his shoulder, exactly where he likes to be. To me, it doesn't look like they're trying to close the gap on our overall race leaders. But this is the beginning of the 600-meter climb. The fact that they're able to run on road now will feel like an absolute joy by the time they get to the top. If you're tuning in just now, basically, this is by far the hardest climb coming up. And we saw some casualties yesterday with Joyce Njiru falling apart at the top of this peak, just unable to keep this intensity. And so they will be taking some absolute damage here with the pace they're doing. But the fact that this is now the chase group, we can no longer see Remy. Kevin Quebec clearly falling off the pace of our race leaders.
Well, at the last time check, it was Remy Bonnet actually put 13 seconds at that time check into Philemon Kiriego. But it's all playing out nicely for Alazoui as well. Oh, no doubt, best downhiller on that lap for Remy Bonnet as he launched that attack that has him in the lead. Of course, the time checks that we are now thankfully able to bring you are basically just a snapshot because things can change very, very quickly. But at that last time check, there was actually 13 seconds, 13.32 between Bonnet and Kiriego as we are with Kevin Quebec climbing back up. He is in the chase group, but wasn't too far behind Alazoui and Kipingino, but on his own at the moment. Kamoy in 6th, Christian Allen still putting together a great race in 7th place, a little further down. That was the last of the time checks that we're able to bring you as we're working our way towards the big climb, the key point of this race. And we thought maybe that is where Remy Bonnet might launch his attack. Been proven wrong, but the climb still to come.
Kevin Kebet now sat here in 6th. He is in suffering. He's been spat out the back of our league group. The number of times he's looking, and there's already Robert Kimoy has eaten up 16 seconds since the last split. We suspect that behind him, Jonas Soldini and Christian Allen won't be far behind. We were talking about how this early pace would create some casualties, and I'd be very surprised if Kevin can make it through to the top 10 by the finish now. This is really going to hurt this 600-meter climb he has left to go.
It's like we're running through someone's garden here, isn't it? It's a little change in scenery, but it starts to climb pretty quickly here, and not too long on the tarmac before we're back in the trails as well. And you see all the signs around as well throughout Switzerland. Everything is just so well marked with time distances for walking. If you're into your walking and your trail running, I mean, there's not many better places to do it on the planet, because it's actually pretty hard to get lost. The signposts everywhere, although some of these trails are a little more off the beaten path, but everything very well marked if you're ever in this part of the world enjoying the mountains, and why not, because they are spectacular here in southern Switzerland.
And this is Jonas Soldini now, who is making the overtake on Kevin Kebet. He's new to our series this year. He came 9th in Mammoth, but he does have quite a good pedigree in trail running. He came 12th in the World Championships back in 2022, but you can see the difference now in the pace of people overtaking Kevin Kebet. This is what happens if you commit too much too early. And while this is slightly old now, this was before the overtake by Robert Kimoy and Jonas Soldini, and you can see the difference that's already made. But the big story here is that 5-second lead by Remy Bonnet significantly has been made at the start of the climb, the section of the race that really favors Remy Bonnet. He's in a battle for 3rd place in our overall series with Philemon Kiriego. Whoever finishes first of those two comes 3rd overall in the series. And you can see there in 4th and 5th, Elizina Lazoui and Patrick Kipagino, 1st and 2nd in the overall series, currently locked together. LSE knowing he just needs to finish ahead or one position behind Patrick to win the overall title.
Quick word about Timothy Kebet as well. What a race he's putting together here, still on the heels of Remy Bonnet at the last time check, and it's so impressive to see him. You called him out before the start of the race, David, as someone that could really surprise us as we see this group working their way up. It now starts to just drag as this chase group knows that Bonnet and Timothy Kebet are up ahead, and I wonder if see Timothy Kebet in a few more races next season, maybe in the elite group, but he's certainly showing us that he has got the talent, got the ability, but it's all about to get even tougher throughout the remaining part of the race, because not only is the ascent, the climbing brutal, but the descent is tough as well, David, isn't it? It's steep, it's twisty, it's going to be a real tester.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the strategies of Remy is the more he can make the other athletes suffer on this climb, it digs into the energy source of the athletes. And we saw yesterday, Joyce and Giroux on the final climb, that they're currently, the final big climb they're currently on. By the time she got to the peak, and this is Christian Allen, the wet dog, coming for the overtake of Kevin Kebet there. He's now jumping at the places soon. I think behind it will be Roberto Di Lorenzo. I suspect will be the next person to overtake. Come on, Kevin, keep on focus. But
yeah,
we saw with Joyce and Giroux, by the time she came over the top, she didn't have the energy to actually use her downhill pace. She was too tired from the climb. So part of what Remy's doing now is not just trying to create a lead, but he's actually trying to take the sting out of the final attack. And I suspect at that peak is where Elisine will deploy the pace that we saw him win the prologue with on the downhill. He'll be confident enough that he won't be caught in the last 2.5 kilometers. So when they get over that final peak, I expect the fireworks will erupt. Now, we talked about how impressive Timothy Cabet has been so far. One thing that really stuck with me, having spoken to his manager, is quite how much pressure some of these athletes are under today. If he finishes in the top 5, he'll be taking home money to his family. 4 years ago, he took up running partly to just try and provide for them. But he knows if he's outside those top 5, because he's not in an overall series, he won't actually qualify for any prize money. So he is running not just for his future in trail running, but he'll have to go home and to explain to his family why he took these risks to come abroad and go home empty-handed. So, huge pressure on some of our athletes today to perform in this final.
Well, now let's take a little look into the orienteering national team, Fleury Roux. The biggest challenge is to keep up the pace and at the same time get some good shots. So you have to get the frame right. Once you're on the descent with the leaders, everything falls into place quite naturally. It's a habit you have to get into. You have to switch off your brain. It's not easy. I'm Fleury Roux. I'm a camera runner in the Golden Trail World Series and the Mont Blanc Marathon. Do orienteering, and I did it for several years in the French team at a high level. I think that helps me maintain our discipline. We have to be able to run at 20 kilometers an hour holding a map and reading it. It's a bit like when you're filming as a camera runner. You have to be able to hold the camera, stabilize it, and also look at the camera without looking at where you're putting your feet. So the equipment we use today for live shows, there are no cables, there's nothing hanging down, so it limits technical problems. The GoPro is linked directly to the box here and then directly to the control room. We're also connected to an earpiece so we can give information about the race. For example, we can give the gap between second and third because the commentators don't always have information live. The number one rule for us is that we must not influence the race by our presence or our camera. It's also a question of experience. We try not to get between the riders when they're in a group. We stay either in front where we can or behind the group. And sometimes when there's an attack, we try to overtake the riders on the side of the road to get back in front of the race. We hear breathing. It's not Remy Bonnet, but it's our camera runner hanging on as best as he can. We always feel a bit of pressure before filming because the pace of the race here on the Golden Trail is really impressive. So as soon as we see the riders getting ready, we get nervous because we know we're going to hurt ourselves. It's going to be very hard to hold on. So you warm up, you accelerate, and then as soon as you start, it's like a race. The pressure drops, and then you just have to try and keep up for as long as possible. Well, David, a great insight to Fleury Roux. Fantastic camera work there. He's part of the team that's bringing us the camera work today, and good to hear from him and just how tough a job that they have.
He's an incredible athlete. If you want to see some good footage, and this is Remy Bonnet coming through the aid station for the 4th time now. He'll be getting news, he'll be getting his updates on where everyone is, the split, and also his nutrition. But, and significantly now, we can see Patrick on his shoulder. They have responded. Philemon has dropped off the pace. And actually, we were wondering whether Patrick and El Hassine were going to allow Remy to get ahead. If the battle of the battle for the overall series would change the course of today's race. But it seems, again, they've surprised us. Maybe Philemon has buried himself in that first half to almost get Patrick to the base of this big climb now to make the attack. But we have our 2 best climbers in the world now starting the long climb. And wow, what a race this is going to be.
Wow.
But talking to Fleury Roux, if you don't know his Instagram handle, go and follow him. His footage from our our time trial, our prologue 2 years ago, he was filming the sprint section, and it was amazing how fast this guy could run. He actually won the Athlete of the Day award for his footage on that day.
Rightly so. Well, this race has all changed in complexion. Yet again, Bonnet, Elazuri, Timothy Kibet, Kipingeno, Kiriago, and that last split all less than 8 seconds apart. But Bonnet's work on the descent, well, he's got to do it all again on this next climb. And Elazuri, we said maybe he wouldn't finish in the top 2 today. Well, that little prediction might not be coming true now, because he has got himself into a position that is ideal. It's Philemon Kiriago on the ascent here. He is now at the front of the race with launching a little attack here. David, this is interesting. This is very, very interesting right now.
What is going on? Again, we thought he'd fallen off the back, and yet, if this is right, the head of the race, the downhill runner, has decided to launch an attack on the uphill. I suspect he may have fallen off the back. I just want confirmation of that. I don't think we're going to see Remy and Patrick coming through here. I think Philemon has fallen off the back of our front 4 now. And what an effort he has done. I suspect he's basically buried himself this first half of the race for his compatriot Patrick Kipingeno. But now, up to 6th and in the hunt. Christian Allen looking fantastically good. He's made the overtake on Jonas Saldini since we last saw him, and potentially now ahead both of Robert Kimoy. So Christian Allen now in the hunt for a top 5 position, and given how much space it seems that Philemon had dropped off the back of our hunt group, potentially Christian in a shout of a top 5 today. And here comes an interview with Remy Bonnet, last year's series champion, who is at the front of our race today.
Yeah, I think I am not at home, but I am in Switzerland, so kind of at home. But yeah, I think the goal of the weekend is to do good performances, to try to be on the top of the podium again. I think when I go to a race is to win it. So, but I know that there is 3 other guys that are really also interested about the win, and they have to win for the overall title. So it will be a hard battle, I think, till the end. And I will try to make risk, like maybe go a bit faster in the uphill than usually and try to make some gaps. But I know that they are good climbers also, so I think it will be exciting to watch. No, I think I am more, how do you say, more rest than them. I think I lose in DD12 also because he didn't compete after USA. So, but it can be in both hands. Like sometimes when you race a lot, you are really in shape. So I don't know how they will be. Yeah, I think for the confidence will be good for next year to win the last one, because yeah, I did great performances through the whole season, but it was not enough to win. So yeah, I know that the shape is not bad, but it's not how do you say, enough good for winning the race. So I hope, like for the last one, I had a small push in my shape, and that I can make the most of it and try to win it for the last one.
Well, try to win it, he certainly is, but he's in a real battle now, but starting to hit the terrain that Remy Bonnet will have identified before this race, and he's looking very, very good at the moment, but it's all very tight at the front of the race with the key climb that we're building towards, 600 meters of climbing. We're really working towards the business end of the Golden Trail World Series finals. And David, I cannot wait to see what is going to happen once we hit this climb. And Remy Bonnet still looking like he's pretty good, in good shape at the moment.
once we hit this climb, I mean, they are climbing. This is how fast they are at the moment. It doesn't seem like they are, but this is actually going uphill. And you can see how much impact that's had. Timothy Cabet off the back now. Huge gaps forming from the pace that Remy Bonnet is putting down right now. 20 kilometers an hour. Wow, that is absolutely insane to be taking. Yeah, and the exciting element is he knows this course well. He will have paced this to get to the top, maintaining this effort. So he's unloading everything he's got right now with an attempt to get the win that he's not had this season. Incredible tactics on display here. Now, if you're just joining us, just on his shoulder, we had Patrick Kipingino, who is second overall in our series. Elisine Alazoui, our series leader, on his shoulder. Patrick needs to somehow drop Elisine to win the series overall. That is his strategy on this hill. But we are following Jonas Saldini at the moment in 8th place in our chasing pack.
We are building towards what will be, no doubt, a frantic finish. Jonas Saldini at the last time check was in 8th place. He was pretty close with that Christian Allen at that time check. The American Allen have been putting together a very strong race. Not quite sure where Allen is at right at this second, but he was looking good. He's been very impressive today, as has Saldini, in fact. Well, moving back to the front of the race, here's our leading group. And this suits Alazoui because he's where he needs to be. But you can see what awaits these runners. It is all starting to get just a little steeper. The pace not quite up at that 20 kilometers an hour now as it was a minute or so ago. But the climbing really starts from here on out.
And did you note the little tap as Elisine overtook Remy? He gave him a little tap on the back. Yeah, that was almost thanks, mate. Great work. And we talked about Remy attacking for the win. Patrick is now taking the lead. Patrick knows this is the climb that he has to win. This is his last opportunity to get significant distance between him and Elisine Alazoui. He has approximately 400 meters of climbing left, less than 4K total in our course, I believe. So this race is on before the fireworks of the down truly erupt.
Jonas Saldini, part of the group of, chasers. He's a little bit behind those further up the race as we're into the final 5 kilometers of the Golden Trail Series men's final here in Ascona-Locarno.
Daniel Pattis on his shoulder now, making the pass. Daniel Pattis, 5th overall in our series. He needs to finish ahead of Robert De Lorenzi, who is what was 1 place behind him in the last checkpoint. So he's clearly making moves now, intent on keeping his top 5 position. But he has to look out for Christian Allen in 12th, but also making moves. But we currently have on screen Timothy Cabet, and we talked about quite how brutal this climb was. We saw Joyce Giroux running the whole of this hill. I think that was a major mistake, and we're now seeing that body language change. Timothy Cabet now power hiking. I'm intrigued to know of our top 3 men, who of them is going to be deploying the power hike. I think Remy will, because you need to save your muscles. We saw with Joyce, if she was running this too hard, it was slower than hiking, and it meant she couldn't do the downhill. But right now, Philemon still running, trying to catch up for that 4th place. This is not the head of the race. Just to confirm, this is not the head of the race. This is 4th place. Our 3 race leaders, top 3 in the series, top 3 of the top 4 in the series, are ahead of them right now. But this is gonna explode our athletes, and you can see the way they're swaying, because it's so incredibly steep up this final climb. It is brutal.
It's steep, it is tough, it's slippy underfoot as well. We're staying with Timothy Kibet, still trying to run it in
Patrick's
places.
off the back. Patrick is
Ooh.
off the back significantly. Remy is creating a gap, and Elisine, the flying camel, again is tucked behind. Is this the move to win the series and to win the race? Sadly, the terrain is not keeping us on. It is all happening right now.
It's happening out on the hill. We thought it would all happen out here. Elisine El-Azoui aiming, of course, for that series win. We're still with Timothy Kibet here, and he is back into that little light jog. I'm not sure it's the most efficient way up this climb. Back to the drone, and yeah, Patrick Kipingino off of the back at the moment. And Remy Bonnet setting the pace with El-Azoui on his heels.
It's like it's like watching drag cars of snails go up this hill, absolutely flat out at one of the steepest gradients there will ever race. Brutal racing right now. Incredible to see.
We are at the business end of the race on this tough climb. Patrick Kipingino, second in the standings, is being distanced by Remy Bonnet and Elisine El-Azoui. They have got 15-20 meters or so as we're working our way up this tough climb, and the descent to come is a challenge as well. On the right-hand side of your screen, that is Timothy Kibet, who's been so impressive in this race. But Remy Bonnet, and just see that little move, Elisine El-Azoui overtaking, taking it up at the front now, David.
Interesting to see. He didn't need to do that at all. We know that Elisine is by far the best downhill runner of these three, particularly at this point in the course. But potentially some words said. I think they might be sharing this workload. I think they know this, for both of them, this is an advantage, and they actually want to bury Patrick right now. They want to ensure that this race is done, and they are the top two. But they're working together. The fact that he's not dropped Remy, I think this is a tactical team move. As they come over the top now, we'll really be able to see who has burnt their matches too early. It took them only a matter of minutes to get from top to bottom in the time trial. Elisine El-Azoui was the fastest of everyone down this route. Remy Bonnet was fourth fastest of everyone. So a very good downhill runner, but significantly, Patrick Kipingino in third place right now took 40 seconds longer in the time trial. I suspect it will be even slower today. But we're now with Philemon Kiriego in fifth place currently, trying to catch up with Timothy Kibet. And here comes
here we go,
deploying that pace.
We wondered if he would maybe just focus on just getting the result he needed to get, but no, he wants to not only take the overall title, but he wants to do it in style with a victory as well, and with his pace on the downhill. How do you catch him? It's surely his race to lose now, avoiding the steps. That is the sensible approach, because they are slippy. Look at the pace he's got on this downhill. Exceptional running from the Moroccan.
And you know the way we switch to a bike, there's no camera runner now. There is no one on earth who can keep up with this, particularly after we're 1 hour 40 into a race, and he is absolutely ripping down these trails. Whoever has the Strava segment for this course, I'm sorry.
It's in danger.
For what he is unleashing on you right now. What is happening to Remy behind as well? I'd love to see what is going to happen by the bottom of this split. So, they still haven't hit the technical downhill, and this is the beginning. From here to the bottom took him 6 minutes in the in the time trial. It's wetter today, but this was where everyone was falling over in the time trial, and it didn't even seem as if there was any water or any moisture on this course at all. The pace that Elazoui is deploying right now, even our bikes can't keep up.
I'm not surprised. It's not ideal mountain biking terrain either. It's you need a drone, you need an FPV to keep up with them. I think that might be what we'd have to do in future if we come back here, because this is just an absolute masterclass in descending, isn't it? He is throwing everything at this. I think he's put some serious time on Bonnet already.
I want to see his face. Is he just grinning from ear to ear right now? I was filming him the prologue yesterday, and he said when he saw me run, he couldn't stop laughing. He was enjoying it so much, and he will be enjoying this even more. I believe this is Therese Lebeuf's son filming on the side there, an incredible downhill runner himself. But look at this skill now, the speed of those feet. And these are tired legs. They've not only had 8 months of racing, but he is an hour and 45 into this and did this course 2 days ago and buried himself in the 7K time trial. Is there anyone better on earth right now at let's face it, tap dancing? Incredible to see.
And every single step it's so light underfoot. He's just so dynamic, bouncing. The feet, it's almost like they're barely touching the ground. They're moving so fast. It is just unbelievable to watch. Christian Allen approaching the top.
He's
Great race from him.
Christian Allen up into 6th now. What's he held for the downhill, because there are 2 runners not too far ahead of him. And Remy Bonnet in 2nd place, dancing down. He knows he won't catch. He knows he won't catch LSE now, but has he got enough left to maintain this 2nd place? It will be an incredible end of season for him. They're coming into the final lap, which is 1.3K. It's the beginning of the race that they've already done. They know it's not technical. It's incredibly fast, but Patrick Kipangino is faster over that last lap. So Remy Bonnet now running, knowing that his advantage is over. It's not 2nd place still on the table today, but currently Elisina Lazoui, our series leader, coming into the last kilometer of today's race, firmly in control of this battle.
What a climb, but for me, what a descent from Elazoui. But tactically, throughout today's race, he has got it absolutely spot on. You can see, I think that is Remy Bonnet just coming into the descent. Well, the crowd really getting behind all of the athletes. There is Remy Bonnet. He is in 2nd, but it's the time checks that we're looking at the moment.
And we could see at the bottom there, he's just behind. Patrick Kipangino is just behind Remy. This is an absolute neck-and-neck race for that 2nd place. Patrick has not given up on upsetting Remy's party, but what a move they both made. We suspected they could work together here, and they absolutely have. But right now, Elisina Lazoui, clear distance between him and Remy Bonnet on that descent. He has less than 800 meters to go. He's going to hit the steps at the bottom, and then the final climb to his victory. Victory in the final, just like last year. But the thing that has changed, it will be for the first time victory in the overall series for Elisina Lazoui, and the first time for Africa.
Well, Elazoui and Bonnet crossed that climb, summited that climb together. 48 seconds Elazoui put on Bonnet on the descent. Absolutely unbelievable descending from the Moroccan. And now he is in the final throes of this race to cap off what has been a truly stunning season for the Moroccan, and he looks like he could do it all again, doesn't he? He just looks fresh, he looks relaxed, great fluid running from El Azoui, and he has been the man of the season with the wins at the Marathon de Mont Blanc, Headlands and Mammoth, and he's going to add the Golden Trail World Series finals to that list for 2024 as well. A remarkable performance, tactically absolutely spot on, didn't get drawn into anything in the early throes of the race, but when it mattered, he was ready and took his opportunities. Little look over the shoulder, I think you're safe now, El Azoui. Don't think anyone's catching you at this stage.
And I mean, the last two races have been less than a second. We asked him in the press conference, if it comes to the sprint finish, who's going to win the sprint finish? And he said, on Sunday's race, there will be no sprint finish. He said that as if he knew that this is exactly what's going to happen. But Remy Bonnet, only 3 seconds ahead of Patrick Cappuccino at the last checkpoint. Where are they now? Super close for this second place. Can he hold on to this lead?
Well, we need a visual, don't we, on Bonnet and Cappuccino. There is Patrick Cappuccino second in the standings coming into today's race. Was just a few seconds behind Bonnet at the last time check. I think, is he ahead?
Coming through now, actually. Philemon coming in, he's just come through. He's coming down the downhill now. I think he's secured 4th place. I think he's done enough. But here we are with Timothy Cabet, who potentially ahead of, still ahead of Philemon Corriego. So, knowing this course, I suspect he's only got about a 45-second lead on Philemon. And we do know Philemon is an incredibly strong finisher, but coming into the home straight now, Elisine El Azoui from Morocco. He's raced Golden Trail for 5 years. He won last year's final, and for the first time in his career, he is coming through the finish line today, winning the overall Golden Trail World Series. Elisine El Azoui from Morocco. What a display of tactical brilliance, climbing, downhill, technical skill. Everything today. He truly is the best trail runner on earth. Congratulations to the Flying Camel.
Congratulations indeed. What a masterclass today and all season long. There's a little bit of a sprint. Remy Bonnet in second place at the moment, looking over his shoulder, but he's going to hang on for a second. He's got enough in the tank. A really great run from Bonnet today to cross the line in second place, and immediately congratulating El Azoui. A fantastic run from him, and Cappuccino crossing the line in 3rd place. The 1, 2, 3. What a race. Fantastic scenes here in the finish area.
And I mean, fair play to Patrick to come 3rd. He wanted to win this series, but the fact he was laughing and smiling over that finish line, it just shows the appreciation of the skill and the tactic on display today. But Remy Bonnet, to me, this was the performance of his season. When he was winning the last 2 years, he was winning because he was better than the other athletes. But he came into this final, to me, number 4 on the list in terms of ability. But he played a masterful strategy game and only came second today because of the way he attacked that downhill and set up the battle for the climb, worked together with Elisine on that final uphill. And for me, that second is the performance of his career so far. Really, really impressive stuff.
That descent that he put in really set it up, and I think it also helped set it up for El Azoui as well, because it kind of really blew things open, didn't it? And it allowed Bonnet and El Azoui to get into that position on that final ascent. It was a fantastic setup from Remy Bonnet, but it's all about Elisine El Azoui. He has dominated the season. More runners coming through. Is this Timothy Quebec about to come through. I think it is. What a great race today, David, from Timothy Quebec.
Incredible performance from him. I mean, we heard he was a very good uphiller, but to be able to, against a field like this, to hang on to 4th place, incredible. Not the aggression he needed to have had on those downhills. He would never have seen trails like that before. So a real, you can see Joy Lee yesterday's winner and her team coach Julian absolutely celebrating this performance. We're going to be seeing more from Timothy Combet in the future. What a performance for him. But what does this do to our overall standings? At the moment, we see Villemon coming in 6th, Patrick in 3rd, Remy in 2nd. I think Remy has got 3rd overall. I think he's done enough for 3rd overall in our series.
Villemon Kiriego a little further down. And he gets some shouts from the announcer. Villemon Kiriego was in 3rd in the standings coming in to this race today. Stay with us here on Discovery Plus Eurosport. We'll bring you up to date on the overall standings in a few moments' time. But it's Elazine Elazoui that has taken the victory today. Absolutely stunning performance, and with it, he takes the Golden Trail World Series for 2024.
I'm always a little bit cautious of just using my own data, but at the moment I have Elazine Elazoui, 1,000 points, perfect score from this series. In 2nd place, Patrick Capengino.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are with the winner not only of today's final, but also the prologue, but also 3 races during this season. 1,000 points, the maximum for the Golden Trail World Series. Elazine Elazoui, representing Team Normal, coming from Morocco. Today, you realize your dream. What does that mean for you?
For me, I am very, very happy. My dream now is 3. This is proud for my family, for my country, for my team, for my public. Reality, this is difficult for me this year because this is my big objective for my season. Winner, Golden Trail World Series. Now I am winner. For me, that is big historic. That is very, very happy. Thank you for all the public, and today is historic for me.
And just a quick question, because you've always been in the top 5 this past few years. This time you got the win. Is there a secret? Did you change anything to get to that win and take things to a whole new level?
Yeah, this year you have a lot of I change. You have my team. You give me a lot of information. You have coach. You have you good nutrition, and the people I love me. I tell me, Lucien, you can win a golden, and I confidence, and I push, and for me really talk because it's difficult season, but I am very happy.
Reality will sink in. You are indeed the 2024 Golden Trail World Series champion. Congratulations again, and we are looking forward to the next season, but now is time for celebration. So congratulations and all the best for the future.
Thank you so much.
1,000 points, David. He's going to be hard to beat next season.
And I think next in line we're going to have
And if you don't know his story, he's a Berber who from Morocco. He discovered running literally because he was running for water for his camel, and a European person who was traveling with his family spotted how fast he was. To come all the way through this, he's had real battle this season where there have been floods in Morocco. They've lost a lot of animals. One of their cars was underwater. He's come into this final with a lot of emotional wait. So to perform at this level so consistently is incredible and wonderful
Once
to
again,
see.
second interview with Rémi Bonnet, second place, hard fight, but at a price. Like, you had a strategy, and we saw you attack on the downhill, which is not something we're used to seeing. So what was your strategy, and how did that play out in the last climb where you were all together?
Yeah, that was funny, but today I was feeling a bit better in the downhill than in the uphill at the beginning of the race, so I knew that it was a possibility to take a bit of advantage before the last climb. And I play my card, and then they have to push to catch me in the first part of the climb, and then when they catch me I try to make a fucking high rhythm till the top, and it works because Philemon dropped, the other Kenyan also, and Patrick also at the end, he was dropping a bit. So I think it was the key today to try to be smart and to make the move at the right time.
It was an extremely smart move. You said it, you had not much to lose. You've already won the series twice, and so this time was like all or nothing. So when you got to the top, that you were just with Eluzin, like, what went through your mind?
Yeah, I knew that for me it was over. Like, if I was with Eluzin in the top, like, I tried my best. I tried to follow him as much as I could, but he was like crazy fast in the downhill. And yeah, chapeau to him, because this year he was like just untouchable. And yeah, I am happy because he's a good guy and he worked hard to be here. So, and yeah, dream come true for him. So that's good for him.
Beautiful. Well, I think last point on you, like being second and Philemon being far behind, I think you're back in third place overall. How did that make you feel?
Yeah, it feels good because I thought, yeah, I didn't have the year that I wanted. Like, I would have loved to win again a third time. But yeah, it's part of the sport. I think I was in shape all year long, but the other also. And that's part of the sport, and I am pretty happy to finish strong, and it's motivated me for next year to show that I can win again.
That's what we wanted to hear. Rémi Bonnet, once again, second place in this final and third place overall in the Golden Trail World Series. Thank you for being with us.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, and what a champion, you know, he's 2 years, incredible performance, and we've really seen the level of Golden Trail increase so much this season. For him to come back and get redemption at this final, that third place overall, really, really well deserved. But what a final! 2 finals in a row have been absolutely incredible. It's had everything: attacks on the up, on the down, strategy, new runners, falls, spills, contrasting weather. I'm exhausted, Ian. I'm exhausted.
It's been a baptism of fire for myself this weekend. I've absolutely loved it, and yeah, I'm glad I'm not running it though, to be fair, because it was tough out there. And yeah, it's a testament as well to the course design, the course layout as well, because it delivered just 2 fantastic races. A brilliant way to end the Golden Trail World Series, as we see our top 5 from today's race being presented. They should be handed some champagne as well, which is well deserved for those that do want to partake in that. But I think Alan's here quite happy to open that up. Often you see alcohol-free handed out as well to athletes. But yeah, these scenes are what make it all worthwhile. Just absolutely fantastic scenes. They can, not that these men ever really take a rest, do they? They're always out running, out training, but I think they all deserve one now. Well, what a thrilling race we have had today. Right from the off, we had little storylines and narratives developing. We knew what was to come with this really, really tough course. So let's take a look back at some of the highlights of today's race.
Now, right from the start, you can see it was wet. We were aware that could be a factor today. And early on, we weren't quite sure what the strategy of our top 5 runners were going to be. But as you can see, Philemon Curiego leading out very, very early. An incredibly strong start from him. We weren't sure whether he was doing that to try and ensure that Patrick Ipangino was given an opportunity to basically try and tire out Remy Bonnet and Elisine. But neither Remy or Elisine responded. But Philemon still leading out on the climb. As they came to the top, our runners grouped into 6 strong favorites, all working together. And on the down for a while, it looked like, again, Philemon Kiriego pushing the pace, potentially trying to upset the runners behind them. And at one point, it nearly worked. We had 3 of them regrouped. But as the climbing began, they came together. And this is when Remy Bonnet announced his plans, attacking on the downhill. Something we hadn't suspected. Known as an uphill runner, he was flipping the strategy on its head. But as they came up to our final 600-meter climb, this is when they really made their move. Remy Bonnet and Elisine working together to bridge a gap over Patrick Ipangino before Elisine Alazoui showed quite how skillful and devastating his downhill pace could be, creating a massive 45-second gap ahead of Remy on that downhill. Remy now thinking whether he can protect his lead ahead of a chasing Patrick Ipangino. And for the first time, Elisine wins the overall series title. 1,000 perfect points in our season. The Moroccan runner winning the series title for the first time for Africa as well. And a sprint finish right to the line for Switzerland's Remy Bonnet. Patrick Ipangino taking 2nd overall in the series. Smiles all round. Delighted by the race that they had today. I think that's the best final we've ever had from start to finish. Changes in leads, changes in strategy, teamwork between the Kenyans, between the Swiss-based runners, and we're going to get confirmation of what that's done for our overall top 10 in the series. Will Daniel Pattis or Roberto De Lorenzi have done enough to have got 5th place today? 1 minute left to find out our countdown. Apparently, we're hoping to find out the top 10 should be displayed. But Ian, for you, what has been the highlight for you? What has really surprised you with today?
I'm going to need you to say that again for me. The connection broke for a second.
And we're just waiting to find out our overall top 10. We need to know the finish positions of all of the runners before we can calculate that. What has really surprised you today, Ian, or really been something that stood out for you as someone fairly new to the sport?
For me, it was knowing of Remy Bonnet and just his ability on the climbs. To see him attack on the downhill was something that I don't think anyone was expecting today. So to see him attack on the downhill to try and really blow the race up and that different tactical approach was really, really impressive. And I think it sets us up for next season. But our Eurosport viewers are going to be leaving us in just a few moments' time, but we'll be sticking around on the world feed. But huge congratulations to Elisine Alazoui for the win and the overall title. But on Eurosport, from David and myself, Ian Finley, bye for now. David, I've got to ask you the same question back, actually.
Yeah, I mean, that downhill attack, it's what we watch races like this for, to see. But for me, Timothy Cabet, to have stayed in that top 4, really impressive. And but I just love the fact that races like this used to be won purely by being fast runners. But actually, we're seeing now, even being technically gifted isn't enough. You need to have teamwork and you need to have a strategy coming into this race. And the fact that the prologue gave us an indication of what the final could be, I think this is the best final we've ever seen. The fact that we had 3, 4, 5 different leaders all the way through, and I'm hoping as the years progress and cameras and drones get better, I'm sure there would have been even more battles for those 5th through 10th places. And so we're going to be finding out what actually happened. But you can see even here, Jonas from Scandinavia coming through, that how much it means to every single place being fought all the way through to the line. But it's been a really long series.
Yeah, I was just going to say, just getting to the line as well at the end of the series and diving across the line. Every second counts, sprinting to the end. Wonderful scenes.
And the number of winners we've had so far this series as well. We saw Patrick Bengino win the first 2 races in Asia. Coming through to Europe is where Elysine really had the chance to press home his advantage. Kylian Jornet winning by 2 seconds over Philemon Kiriego in Sierra Zanao. And we saw a huge contrast with our women's race where Joyce pretty much dominated from the start of the series to the end, but then a new star being birthed, winning the race yesterday. Joylene from Kenya winning the race, and will be back next year in our series. So Roberts on screen there, our local runner, hoping he's got top 5 overall. I wonder if he knows where he is in our series. And Liam on our left from America led out the race today, unable to stick with the top 10 by the finish of the race.
Well, what a conclusion to the 2024 Golden Trail World Series here in Ascona-Locarno. It has been an absolute thriller. We have enjoyed every second of the weekend. From myself, Ian Finley, and from David Hallard. Thank you for your company. See you next season.